Hello and welcome back to Storytime with Alex. We are now on chapter 9 of Supernatural Night Terror by John Passarella, which I believe that, 33 chapters, so we've got a little bit of time still together. It's Easter Monday. I'm hoping to get this and maybe a bunch more up on YouTube today, so happy Easter. I hope you ate the exact amount of chocolate that you wanted to. In the last chapter, a man was disgustingly killed by a disgustingly huge spider, and Tony was squashed by the red charger. I should say this is take 2 because there are a lot of car names in this and I'm really not a car person, so every now and then I'm just like, what am I saying? Anywho, chapter 9. We've been driving around aimlessly for 15 minutes, Sam said. What exactly are we looking for, Dean? It's like the definition of porn. What? I'll know it when I see it. Don't you think Chief Quinn or Jeffries will call if anything weird happens? Maybe, Dean said, but by the time they get around to it, might be too late to do anything. Hey, nap if you want. I see a headless horseman, I'll be sure to wake you. Funny, Dean, Sam said, but if we're going to do this, I need coffee. Place up ahead, Dean said, nodding towards a white sign with red letters at the corner of a parking lot. Max Quick Mart. Says it's open 24/7. Dean flicked on his turn signal as he entered the convenience store's parking lot. Beside him, Sam sat up straight, leaned forward. Wait, what's happening? He asked, peering ahead of him. Don't know. A group of agitated people in the parking lot were yelling at each other, pointing at the ground and backing away. A woman with facial piercings, wearing a distressed leather jacket and jeans, ran to the front of the store and pounded on the window, screaming, "Get out!" Walking on wobbly legs, an old man fell against the side of his Buick sedan, fumbled for his keys, then gave up and hustled out of the parking lot. A young woman with bleached blonde hair dropped 2 plastic bags filled with soft drink bottles and unhealthy snacks and raced across the parking lot as if a hellhound was on her heels. A few people dashed towards their cars, minivans and SUVs, while others simply followed the blonde's lead. Dude, Dean said. This is porn. As the old-timer who'd lost his keys lumbered heedlessly out into the street, Dean stomped on the brake pedal to avoid hitting him. Under bushy grey brows, the man's eyes were wild. Get back, he yelled. Get back while you can. After that frantic warning, the old man continued his retreat. Dean slowed to school-zone speed and drove up to the parking lot. He was halfway up the entrance ramp when he hit the brake again, hard. Dean would risk his own life before he would imperil the chassis of the Impala. After all, the Impala couldn't defend itself. Sinkhole, he said. You think? Sam was right. The word sinkhole didn't begin to cover what was happening in the convenience store's parking lot. The ground was falling away at an alarming rate from the centre of the parking lot outward. The blacktop was crumbling like burnt toast. Dean shifted the Impala hurriedly into reverse. The cars lined up behind the row of cement bollards protecting the plexiglass front of Max Quick Mart, tilted backwards as the back wheels lost their support. A metallic blue Nissan Murano was the first to fall. It landed with a resounding crash, shattering the back and side windows. A silver Dodge Durango followed soon after, slamming into the Nissan with a concussive whoomp and a protective screech of metal. The theft alarm whooped and wailed. Dean twisted around to look through the rear window of the Impala. Seeing the road clear, he gunned the engine and the Impala lurched backwards and accelerated away from the convenience store. Dean? You'll get your coffee, Sam. That's not what That sinkhole's eating cars, Dean said, keeping my baby clear of that. Sam shook his head, rolling his eyes. First things first, right? Damn straight. Dean spun the wheel and backed into a parking space along the curb on the far side of the street, a couple of 100 feet from Max Quick Mart. A few moments later, they were out of the car and sprinting back to the site of the chaos. Some of the people who had fled the store or abandoned their cars in the unstable parking lot stood on the shoulder of the road, staring in disbelief at the ongoing devastation. The Winchesters shouldered past the line of Gawkers, repeating FBI and move aside until they reached the parking lot. Sam turned to the people and held up his FBI laminate. I need everyone to back up to the far side of the street, he stated firmly. For your own safety, move. A few nodded, others grumbled, but they all backed up. From the edge of the parking lot, Dean looked down into the sinkhole. More like a friggin' abyss, he thought. A few cars parked on either side of the lot were within a few brittle blacktop inches of falling into the hole, but what concerned him more were the two people standing at the entrance to the convenience store. An attractive blonde woman, no more than 30, with a panic-stricken look on her face, straining to pull away from the wiry teenage boy wearing a name tag, can't talk, and green polyester shirt that probably served as a store uniform. The teenager had a firm grip on her upper arm to keep her from running headlong into the pit. Dean called across the chasm, "Ma'am, you need to stay where you are." "My son's asleep in the van," she yelled back. Glancing to the right, Dean saw a blue Chevy conversion van. Aside from the windshield, which faced away from him, all the windows were tinted. If the kid had any sense, he would have lit out soon after the first car crashed in the hole. How old? 3! Damn, Dean thought. "Sam, we got a problem. Kid trapped in a van." Dean pointed at the Max employee. "Young man, what's your name?" "Anson." "The back exit out of the store?" "Yes," Anson said, "but there's a wall behind the store." "Can you get over it?" "No. Wait, yes, we have a ladder for changing lights." "Great. I want you to take this woman and go out the back." "I'm not leaving my son," the woman cried. "I'll get your son," Dean responded. "I'm not leaving until I know he's safe." Dean sighed. He looked at the strip of sidewalk they stood on. At the moment it seemed secure. The blacktop had crumbled away almost to the bollards. Maybe they provided some extra support. "First sign that sidewalk's failing, you leave, okay?" After a moment she nodded reluctantly. Beside him, Sam said, "What do you have in mind?" Dean noticed a 4-foot-high chain-link fence ran along both sides of the convenience store parking lot, easy enough to climb over it to get to the van. "You take the passenger side, I'll take the driver's side." "Figures." Sam started to run along the outside of the fence. Dean was a step behind him when he noticed the conversion van shudder. The blacktop under the left rear tire was crumbling. He veered to the right, but stayed on the inside of the fence, running along a thin strip of sidewalk that abutted the chain-link fence. The ground shook beneath his feet. A quick glance at the van, and he saw it drop a few inches and rock side to side. The front bumper of a late 70s gold Pontiac Firebird was close enough to kiss the fence. Without a moment's hesitation, Dean jumped on the hood of the car and crossed over it. Someone across the street yelled, "Hey!" "Gotta be kidding me," Dean muttered. Joker's car was 10 seconds from joining the vertical demolition derby, and he was worried about a ding on the hood. Dean bounded across the hoods of 2 more cars and landed beside the Chevy van as Sam was leaping sideways over the fence. The passenger side doors were locked. This close, he could hear a frightened child crying inside the van. Dean circled around to the driver's side, which was also locked. "Here," the young mother called, "the keys." She tossed them underhand to Dean. The van lurched as more ground gave way. Dean staggered, but snatched the keys out of the air by the dyed pink rabbit's foot keychain. He opened the driver's door and was about to hit the button to unlock all the doors when he was flung forward against the steering wheel. The woman screamed. Dean felt the van sliding violently backwards. Sam's startled face flashed by the passenger side window and was gone a second later. A moment or two of eerily quiet freefall, and then a jarring impact. First, Dean was tossed up against the steering wheel, banging his already bruised ribs. Then he came down hard against the driver's seat. With one leg hanging outside the van, the door slammed painfully against his knee, but provided enough resistance to prevent him from hurtling through the interior of the van. He kicked the door with his other leg to free himself, and promptly sprawled across the front seats. Twisting around, he peered down. Fortunately, the 3-year-old boy was buckled into a child safety seat strapped to the passenger side captain's chair in the second row. What the hell does that mean? I don't know cars. Anyway. Terrified, his cheeks streaked with tears, the boy stared at Dean as if he were an alien life form. The sudden drop in impact must have stunned the crying jag right out of him. "It's okay, kid," Dean said, trying to sound calm. "I'm going to get you out of here." "Where's Mama?" "Your mum's fine. She's back up at the store." "I want Mama." "I'm going to take you to her, okay?" The boy nodded. "Want Mama." "We've established that," Dean said, "but I need you to work with me. Okay?" Another nod. This time, the kid gave him an expectant look. "What's your name, kid?" Hunter. Dean smiled. No kidding. The boy nodded solemnly. Hunter Riley Fields. Gravel and chunks of blacktop pelted the exterior of the van like hailstones with biblical aspirations. One particularly large chunk stuck and starred the windshield. I'm just sorry, I can't read. A few more plinked and plunked against the hood. Dean tried not to think about what might happen if a big enough rock, or even another car, came through the windshield at that moment. Or what would happen if a fuel tank ruptured and something sparked. No, he wouldn't think about that at all. Okay, Hunter, Dean said with a serious nod of his own. Let's do this. He reached between the front seats and stretched his arm to the far seat on the second row, pushing the release button on the kid's safety seat. Accustomed to the seat routine, the boy pulled the V-straps up over his head without any prompting. Dean smiled reassuringly. Great job, Hunter. Now, let's get out of here. The boy started to climb out of the seat. Whoa, Dean said. Careful now. Give me your hand. Dean stretched to meet the kid's small hand, but adjusted his position to get a better grip on his arm. 1, 2, 3. With one tug, Dean pulled the boy up to the front top row of seats. Dean backed out of the door, propping it open with his back as he stood in the dirt and gravel slope of the sinkhole. The van rested against the side of the hole in a 60-degree angle. With one arm wrapped around Hunter, he moved away from the van and let the door slam shut. The back end of the van rested against a beige Camry that was almost completely submerged. Even as Dean watched, the van's tyres were sinking into the dirt and crumbled blacktop. Dean! Sam called from above. Dean spotted his brother braced against the chain-link fence in front of where the van had been parked, his forearms hooked over the fence so he could clutch it while leaning forward for a better view. Sam was almost 25 feet above. We're fine, Dean said. Hunter! Mama! Hunter said, waving at his mother, who stood beside the store clerk. The bollard nearest the pair tilted at a 45-degree angle. The sidewalk wouldn't last much longer, but they had a more immediate problem. A banana-yellow Mini Cooper that had been parked one space closer to the store's entrance was inching backward and leaning at a precarious angle. Clumps of dirt and chunks of blacktop broke away from beneath its black tyres. With a scrape of metal on asphalt, the Mini Cooper pitched backwards, lifting to the left as it hurtled towards Dean and the boy. Dean whispered, "Oh, crap." And that's the end of that chapter. Tune in next week to see if Dean survives. I mean, he's one of the main characters. But who knows? It's supernatural. People die and come back all the time.